February 27th in 2022, the International Legion was created by the initiative of the President as the answer of high number of requests from foreigners with Ukrainian roots and without them to come and fight for Ukraine. According to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, around 20,000 foreigners from more than 50 countries submitted requests to join the Legion in March 2022. Ex-soldiers from NATO countries who fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as people without any military experience, are among those who came to Ukraine. We are going to talk in this video to one of those who sacrificed peaceful life back at home and come to fight for Ukraine. He is the ex-serviceman of the British Army, but now he is the soldier of Armed Forces of Ukraine within the 59th Separate Mechanized Infantry Brigade with the call sign Whisper. Thank you for having time for me.
You're welcome.
And right before we start, I believe you wanted to tell something to the viewers.
Підписуйтесь на канал, ставте лайк.
Thank you. Thank you. I've divided the topics I want to discuss with you by some chronological order. But before we start, I'd like to discuss the most recent events. So right now you're recovering from the injury you've got, and you had the opportunity to visit your family, to spend time with your kids, and this is not the first time you've got injured.
No.
Just at the beginning of September, you was injured by with the shrapnel, and by the way, I'd like you to tell this story because I believe that Russian saved your life by firing at you.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get back to it. How it feels for you to, when you're here in Ukraine on the front line, and they're just 3 days after you spend the time with your family in peaceful Greece and peaceful Britain, and then you know that you're gonna come back again.
Well, it can be very surreal when you first get back. I mean, you get used to it, obviously, but not hearing the air raid alarms and not hearing the sounds of the artillery firing towards Russian positions when you're at base, you become accustomed to it. It kind of helps you sleep. The vibration of the house when there's an explosion kind of close, and it becomes very difficult to actually go to sleep when you're away from it. It's kind of strange. Very strange.
So what's about the injury? How Russian saved you?
Right, yeah, this one. So we was assault in a position, dismounted from the Humvee, pushed forward, and there's bullets zinging through the tree line, zinging over our heads. The sound of the KPV opening up on the positions. It's very noisy. But I heard a PKN that wasn't coming from our direction, it was coming from their direction. And then all of a sudden there was rounds landing around right in front of the Humvee where I was trying to get to. I was going to get past the Humvee was doing its turn, and I was going to come past the left-hand side of it, and then rounds started landing on the ground. So I slowed up, tried to get a bead with my grenade launcher, and then the shell hit, which destroyed the Humvee. So if it wasn't for him opening fire, I would have still been moving forward at a good pace and would have been right underneath the shell. So that, that Russian opened up on me and saved my life.
Good man, good man. So the next question is the open one. Tell us about Ukraine and your impressions about this country. So, it's about the civil aspect, the people you've met here, the cities you've seen, the experience you had. Well,
I've had a great time here. The Ukrainian people are lovely people, especially in the West. You head more east, and you don't know whether you're looking at a pro-Russian or not, to be honest. Some of the looks that they give you, it certainly makes you believe that they're pro-Russian that way. But sort of in the cities like Kyiv and Lviv, this sort of area, the people are very friendly. They like to hear your story, ask you why you're here and thank you for being here. And
I believe it's the most common question for you.
Yeah, it makes you feel kind of humble, but it's like, I just came here to fight Russians. It's what they're doing here is despicable, and it makes me feel kind of sad when people thank me too much, because it's like it's humbling, but sometimes it like makes you feel a bit embarrassed,
Because you don't feel yourself a hero that much.
Of course not. I just made a decision to come here and fight against their oppression. So no, I don't feel like a hero, but a lot of the civilians sort of, they definitely make you feel that way, you know, and it's very humbling, but it can be very embarrassing.
Let's roll back to before the big full-scale invasion. Tell us about your background, what you've been doing in the UK, when you have worked.
Oh, so just before coming out here, I was a self-employed builder, had my own company. I was doing clearance work and landscape gardening, groundworks, things like that. But sort of in 2022, when the main invasion happened, I couldn't concentrate on my jobs. I was making some costly mistakes. All I was thinking about was what was going on in Ukraine, and I couldn't really, you know, I felt like there was something that I needed to be doing out here rather than, you know, working in someone's back garden. So yeah, it's very good money doing what I was doing, but it's, you know, when there's something pulling at you, you know, eating at you inside, you just have to, you know, go and do it, because otherwise it can destroy you mentally.
Could you tell me about your military background? Did you serve in the army? Did you have any combat experience before coming to Ukraine?
I did serve in the British Army. I don't want to go into details about units and things like that.
I understand that.
But no, I didn't have any combat experience. Spent a short time in the army after being discharged for personal reasons. It was a really big, it was really big on my mental well-being. Like, I always felt like I made a mistake not staying in the army, you know. But I just, you know, you get on with life, you do what you're doing, and you get on with work and things like that. And then when Zelensky said, whoever's an enemy of Russia wants to come and fight them, you know, for Ukraine, I jumped at the opportunity and the chance to come and be a soldier again, especially for a country that, you know, deserves someone fighting for them, you know. It's not like you're out here fighting for oil. You're not out here invading a country. You know, you're the defender. They're the aggressor. So, yeah.
And did you ever know something about Ukraine before the invasion started?
Not a lot. I mean, I had a couple of friends from many years ago that were Ukrainian, but not. I didn't really know much about the country. Only from what I'd seen on the reports from news and things like that. I mean, I wasn't too clued up with you know, how it works here, how people get by, you know, whether it's a rich or poor country. I didn't really know any of this until I first came here, you know, the history of it as well.
So how did you learn about the full-scale invasion, and did you monitor the news when it started?
Well, yeah, it was boom everywhere, you know, it was all over the news, it was all over the radio, you go on Facebook and you wouldn't be able to scroll for 2 minutes without seeing footage from it, you know. And that was one of the things that I remember. There was a housing estate, and there was someone, he was filming a Russian jet that was flying over these houses, and then it shot missiles at like a house next door, the house 2 doors down from it, and all of a sudden there was kids screaming and crying, and it's like, well, what good is that, shooting houses, you know? There's no soldiers there, they're just families just trying to live, and they're getting hit by missiles from Russian planes. And yeah, it got to me, you know. It made me upset because I've got children myself.
When and why did you decide to come to Ukraine? Because, for example, I realize why Georgians, Belarusians, Chechens do that as well, because they countries and people, they are suffered from Russia, and for them is the chance either to get revenge or help their country out by defeating Russia. But what was your own motivation?
Well, there's a few really. When war broke out here, I was almost guaranteed that it's going to break out elsewhere, you know. I don't believe that they'll just stop here if they win here. They're going to go Finland, you know, Hungary, places like that, Poland.
Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia,
you know,
yeah.
they said they wanted to make the new USSR, and they're going to do it by force. So, and I mean, a lot of these countries you can drive to within a day from my country, you know. The flight to Ukraine is very short. I mean, it takes an hour and 45 minutes, an hour and 50 minutes to fly to Poland, and then you know, you get the coach from there to cross the border, and it's like, it's so close. It's Europe, you know. It's on the continent of Europe, where, you know, whether it's next door to Russia or not, it's on our continent. And even though Great Britain isn't continental Europe, it is still a part of Europe, and it's when there's war happening that close to you, it can make you be aware of what if it happened to your family, what if this was happening in your skies, bombs dropping, And and that was another thing. So the Russians, when they first invaded here, they stepped up there. So they'd send their nuclear capable bombers towards our airspace, and they'd test our air responses, and they were doing it a lot more after the invasion here. And it's like, so they're threatening us with nukes, you know, they look at it as a show of force, but essentially they're threatening to nuke us when they're doing that, you know. Look what we can do, we can get here like that and drop nuclear weapons on your country. And I think it's just, you know, disgusting. Why keep doing that? Just because, you know, you invaded Ukraine and you want the USSR back. All these thoughts that's going through Putin's head, I can't comprehend why he believes that this is the right thing for him to do. And and then there was I remember the last sort of drop for me to come out here, because I was already, you know, and ahhing. I wanted to fight for Ukraine. I wanted to, you know, help the people here. But then we had the nuclear bombers coming towards our airspace. This guy, I don't know his name, is an idiot, threatening. He made a joke on Russian propaganda, so on Russian TV, and it was about having the capability to flatten the UK with a nuclear tsunami with one missile.
Другой вариант – погрузить Британию в морскую пучину – российский подводный робот-беспилотник «Посейдон». Он приближается к цели на километровой глубине со скоростью 200 км в час. Нет никакого способа остановить этот подводный дрон. Боеголовка на нем мощностью до 100 мегатонн. Взрыв этой термоядерной торпеды у берегов Британии поднимет гигантскую волну, цунами высотой до 500 метров. Такой водяной шквал является еще и носителем экстремальных доз радиации. Пройдя над Британскими островами, он превратит то, что от них, может быть, еще и останется, в радиоактивную пустыню.
You know, and everyone's cheering and clapping and applauding it like the dumb, stupid Russians that they are. And you know, it's disgusting. Why laugh and cry and cheer about a country being destroyed in nuclear waste? You know,
For no reason.
For no reason at all, exactly. And you know, on the Western medias and things like that. So when we're talking about nuclear escalation, they're worried about it. They're scared and they don't want it to happen. Whereas the Russians, when they're talking about it, they think they're all big and strong because they have all these nuclear weapons and they cheer for it. And it's disgusting, you know. Sorry, I'm good.
It was great. So, feel free to be emotional.
Yeah. I was getting a bit angry there.
So, you mentioned that you have kids.
Yeah.
What was your family reaction?
A lot of mixed emotions. Before I came out here, everyone was telling me not to go. You know, everyone was saying, it's not our fight. You know, you don't want to go get killed for a war that's got nothing to do with you. And, you know, you can understand their reasons with believing that, but you know, my beliefs were strong, and I had to stand by my beliefs and come. But since being out here, a lot of my family have sort of changed their mind, because a lot of them are looking into the war more now that I'm here, you know, and they're seeing a lot more of the footage, and they're aware of what's actually going on out here now, and not just what they're seeing on the news highlights. You know, they're looking more into it. They're looking, you know, sometimes you look at the news and it's not that personal. It's made up. It's cut into different ways to make you believe something. But when you're looking at someone's social media account and it's there, live in a trench or live in someone's house, that's the more real news that you're going to find, I believe.
Especially from someone they knew personally.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, my kids, so when I first came out here, I told them that there was orcs in Ukraine. So orcs from Lord of the Rings, because that's what you like, we're calling them orcs. And so my kids believed that I was actually out here fighting orcs with swords. But no, they now know that it's Russia, and it's, you know, because even in the schools in Britain, you know, the teachers are trying to give the children the knowledge about what's going on over here, you know. So and it kind of ruined my cover story with them. So, but yeah, there's a couple of members of my family that's changed their tune since I've been out here, with you know, being proud of me and understanding that I had this need to come out here, and you know, being able to gain leadership within the Ukrainian army, which is quite hard to do in most cases. You know, and just doing what I've been doing. They're worried and they're scared, but you know, there's a lot of pride that comes from my family, even though some of them do wish me to come home quite quickly.
So Brits were forbidden to participate in military conflicts with the foreign country's territory back to the March 2022. But later, Liz Truss announced that she supports British people who wants to fight for Ukraine. So there are going to be two questions here. First of all, why do you think the ban was lifted? Second one is, would the ban have stopped you?
So first off, I believe that so many people were coming out here from Britain to fight the war under the law. So when you go away to fight in another army, so you take up arms, you get a weapon, and you fight for another country, it can be terrorism charges. But, you know, I think Ukraine isn't terrorists, they're fighting an aggressor. And, you know, there were so many people that came for it. Even politicians' children was out here fighting. I can't remember the guy's name, he was an ex-Royal Marine Commando, but a lot of his content was online at the beginning of the war. So, you know, I think that they knew that there was going to be a big surge of people coming out here, and to try and do them all for terrorism charges was just going to be it's not going to work. You know?
Actually, it's a big number because according to statistics, I don't know the most recent ones, but when I prepared for the interview, I looked through some news and the internet. So yeah, the most people, the biggest number of people came from United States and Great Britain.
Yeah, no, but the ban wouldn't have stopped me though.
No,
I would have come out here regardless. Took my chances in court.
So how did you learn about the opportunity to join Ukrainian Armed Forces? And what was the joining process like? Did you have any difficulties? Could you potentially have any problems back home because of coming here?
So basically I see it was Zelensky, he was doing a report, and he basically said anyone who wants to fight for Ukraine, you're welcome to come, you can fight for our army. I see that's what made me first think about it. And the amount of people that was on the news going over there, you know, there was news reports on it. The people that was trying, the borders, you know, was queues and queues as far as the eye could see, with people trying to get into the country. Ukrainians heading home to fight, as well as, you know, foreigners who wanted to get in and help. So I'll see that. And I remember at one point I was just scrolling through my news feed on Facebook, and it came up, join the Ukrainian army, and it was like, it's on your news feed and it's there screaming at you in the face. So yeah, I don't believe I'm going to get any problems from being out here. I mean, you may get some of the stupid idiots.
No, I mean, definitely not, because how many times? Like 2-3 times you already?
Yeah, twice. I've been back twice, and I've been straight through the airport, no questions asked.
Nice.
I mean, Ukraine stamped on my passport. It's yeah, so.
I can't help asking it. So the majority of foreign soldiers, they join international legions, as there is one language preparation as well, because they come from NATO countries as well. But you decided to serve among Ukrainians in Ukrainian brigade. So why did you make the choice?
Well, there was a lot of, I mean, I came over intending to join the Legion, but once I got here, you know, I was hearing a lot of mixed stories, which I don't really want to get into. But as well as that, you know, the Legion, they're either doing one thing or another, you know, and they cycle between that. And so they're either doing reconnaissance, or they're sitting in a position defending, or they're storming. But they're not. I wanted to be in a storming brigade. I wanted to do assaults, you know. That's where I wanted to be.
All the time.
Yeah, I'm stupid. But you know, that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be hitting Russian positions and helping take them back and give them back to Ukraine. I didn't want to be sitting around for a few months doing nothing. I wanted to be in the action, and the Ukrainian armies, they're the ones that's in the full action, you know. I'm not taking anything away from the Legion. They're doing their bit. Many people have died for the Legion, but my heart laid in storming, so that's where I wanted to be.
So were there any Ukrainians in your brigade who spoke in English, and how did you communicate with the others?
There was a couple. One, which I'm not going to say his name, but basically he's like the second in command of the unit. He was Ukrainian, but he went to join the French Foreign Legion, so he speaks quite good English. And obviously when the war broke out, he came straight back to join the fight, and he speaks well enough for us to get by. So when we're getting orders and, you know, we're discussing a mission, he knows enough, you know, and then what he doesn't know, we can get the translator out, you know, Google Translator, Later on, more people that spoke Ukrainian come and join the unit, so then it became a lot easier to communicate. But whenever the 2IC wasn't around, you know, it was very difficult just to communicate with the Ukrainians, because my knowledge of the language is very small. I mean, I know a small amount of Ukrainian and a small amount of Russian. Obviously, a lot of the soldiers, they speak Russian. You know, history is what it is in Ukraine at the minute, until, you know, things can move forward with speaking Ukrainian language more, which I do believe is a serious issue here. You know, once people start speaking the language more, it will be a lot harder for Russia to gain control with people's minds. You understand? Sorry, I'm going off topic there, but you know, yeah, no. So as long as the 2IC was around, we could communicate. You know, as long as our internet and Starlink was working, if he wasn't around, we could communicate. But if, say, the internet was down or the power was out, there's, you know, no chance. It's like sort of hand signals.
Some sort of sign language.
Yeah. Drawing in the sand, you know.
Yeah. So, how long have you been here in Ukraine?
I come here last February, and I waited around 3 weeks to join a unit, and then once I got to my unit, I've been in that same unit since.
So, speaking of your unit, I have seen the chat of it, and there were so many nice words about you, and they call you legendary. Can you tell me, yeah, I'm pretty sure that I've seen the word legendary, so that your brothers in arms saying about you. So, can you tell us what for? What did you do so they respect you?
Well, without telling bloody too many war stories, because that's not what I really want to do.
Yeah, you can just skip all the details that you can speak about, just like maybe something general.
I mean, I can't really speak for them, but I believe it's our will to train, our will to fight, you know. We get there, and every day we'll be, if we're not preparing for a mission, we'll be doing some sort of physical training. We'll go out running. You know, we'd go out on a ruck march and I'd put like kit on, you know, go walking for a few K and then a few K back. And then obviously once we'd been told about a mission that we was going to be going on, we'd train for it every single day. You know, we'd look at the footage from the drones, we'd set up a makeshift position that looks like the Russian, like where the blindages are, you know, the fighting positions, the bunkers, the PKM point.
Yeah, that's good to reiterate.
So we'd train for that every single day, and you know, the Ukrainians would see it. And when there's a lot of foreigners that come out here, and they'd be told about a mission, and they'd be all game for it right up until the point where they're stepping off, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, we can't do it like that, and if we're not going to do it this way, I'm not going, you know, and they lose their bollocks, unfortunately. But when it comes down to it, I mean, I've never said no to a mission. I've always gone, and just, yeah, I don't want to get into too many details about on the missions.
Okay, sorry, yeah. Unfortunately, Ukraine is not in NATO, and unfortunately, we were part of USSR, which and that left its mark on Ukraine. So how would you rate the level of Ukrainian defense forces compared to British Army? How's it different from what you're being taught in there? And generally speaking, can NATO standards be applied to this war?
So yeah, that, you know, it has left its mark, unfortunately. I mean, some of the soldiers that are in the Ukrainian army was soldiers in the Soviet army, you know, but they hate Russia, you know, there's no, they despise Russia, but at some point they were soldiers in the,
it is what it is, yeah.
It is what it is, exactly. But you know, they still have that sort of mentality of just throwing everything at it sometimes, and it's, you know, it's hard to sort of show them a different way. But with my commander, he's very good at listening to how we want to do it. So it can't be focused on a say, if NATO came here and tried to use all their tactics here, it wouldn't work, you know, spacings, distances, formations. There's too many mines, there's too many drones now, you know, drones have completely changed the concept of war. So it's, you know, it's kind of why you have to get in there quick, because the drone's going to see you, you know, it's either going to drop a grenade on you or it's going to call in artillery or mortar support. And Yeah, they're I hate drones. They are a nuisance, you know. But you can. We've tried to put some of our NATO aspects, like some of it, into the missions that we do. But you know, so it's like sort of 50-50. You can apply both, you know. But I believe if you try to put a full NATO standard to it, it just wouldn't work.
For a long time in Ukrainian media space, the enemy was made fun of, and it was portrayed as like stupid and dumb. Based on your personal experience, how would you rate the level of Russian army and what they're capable of?
To be honest, I don't want to sit here and say that they're absolutely clueless, because they're not. You know, they are a trained fighting force. Their standards aren't as good as Russia makes out that they are. But I find that the DPR are a more formidable force than the Russian soldiers. You know, because they've been doing it since 2014. They know the area, they know the land. But I find that people that are just ripped off of the streets in Donetsk and sent at the front lines, they're more savvy than the VDV, which is Russian paratroopers and things like that. It's, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're completely useless, because you know they've killed many Ukrainians here. It's sad, but you know they're nowhere near what Russia says that they are. You know, as a competent fighting force, they either run away, shoot themselves, or you know, they lose.
Again, roll back to the March 2022. While some European leaders, they've been dreaming about the negotiations, keeping Putin's, saving Putin's face and all that stuff. The UK submitted the request to take part in allegations of genocide Ukraine against Russian Federation case, which is being considered by the UN court. They speak against Russians participating in Olympic Games. They make fast decisions. They were the first ones who gave Ukraine the long-range missiles like Storm Shadow, for example. They help with military training for Ukrainian soldiers. And you've explained your own motivation, but in your opinion, why does your country help that much?
Well, I mean, Russia's been a threat to us all for a very long time. I mean, I never believed that the Cold War ever ended. You know, we had this fake peace for a while, but they have continuously been a threat. You know, they've bullied their way into other countries, Chechnya, you know, Crimea in 2008, Georgia. They're in Syria. They're in Syria as well, and they fight the rebels there. They gas the rebels there. And, you know, they're just wherever they go. You know,
they're trying to put their hands even to other countries.
Yeah, they've got their tentacles here.
I don't remember their name, but I believe they tried to poison someone in the UK.
Yeah, and you know, they denied it. But who else holds a grudge like Russia?
They always deny.
Yeah, I know. It
everything.
wasn't us, honestly. But no, you know, and that attack there, he didn't just kill an enemy of Russia. He killed, how many people got ill over that? There was about 8 people in hospital altogether. You know, police responders, ambulance responders, because they didn't know what they were dealing with. And you know, a lot of Salisbury had to get shut down, you know, and the military came in to clear it all up. But it just goes to show that 20 years down the line, this guy that had defected from Russia was assassinated. You know, 20 years. Really, like, is there no limits to what they will do or won't do? You know, it's like I say, they're an enemy to the whole world.
So just what you want to say, that your country, fortunately, good for us, realizes the threat of Russia.
Yeah, they do, and it's you know, they help out where they can. I mean, it's just a shame they haven't sent troops here, you know, to help with the fight. But unfortunately, NATO, you know, they're a bit worried about escalating to a nuclear war, and you know, I can sort of understand that. But
I believe I heard that once.
Yeah, once or twice. Yeah, you know, there's a certain point where you have to say, well, enough's enough. You know, they're not going to nuke us. Look at the state of their weapon systems. You know, they get shot out of the sky like that. You know, and if there was to launch nukes, I'm pretty sure we could do that with their nukes too, like you've been doing to their missiles here. You know, you just pluck them out of the sky, and unfortunately, not all of them. You know, but I think our chances in a nuclear confrontation with Russia would be better than theirs. You understand? So, I mean, it comes to a point where we need to stop letting bullies be bullies because they have nuclear weapons. You know, we've all got nuclear weapons. I mean, the idea that they're going to send nukes because we'd just nuke them. You know, it's stupid to believe that that's the case. I mean, I can't believe that Russia would do that. You know, because he'd completely destroy himself. This first nuke that he launched, he'd be completely destroying himself. You know, and when it comes to the escalation part with NATO, I mean, yeah, Britain has been helping as much as they can, but in my eyes, not enough. That's why I came here, you know.
Yeah. The next question is not kind of related to war, but I can't help asking it.
Okay.
So it's about Boris Johnson. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I have to ask this. So he was one of the first foreign politicians who came to Ukraine after the start of the full-scale invasion. And we Ukrainians, we really love him for his support, for his charisma as well. But you're not the only one, I mean, speaking of the Brits, you're not the only one who expressed the bad attitude towards him. And I also, no, I mean, like, as we discussed that before, I get your point, but still a lot of my friends like asking, why didn't love Boris Johnson? Because we do, he's amazing. So just for my friends, could you tell us why Brits don't like Boris Johnson?
Well, yeah, I understand he's been very supportive here, which is, yeah, it's a good thing. But as a general leader of the British, you know, the UK, he wasn't the best. You know, he was in charge during COVID. You know, everyone else was on lockdown, not been able to see their families. No one was being able to work, go out and do the normal simple things. And he was having COVID parties, you know. So in my eyes, that just makes you a bit of an idiot. So, I mean, that's really the main thing why I dislike Boris Johnson. You know, his support towards Ukraine, yeah, it's been great. You know, and I'm pretty sure if he had it his way, he would have sent troops here a long time ago. But you know, NATO, oh, we can't do that. We don't want escalation.
What do people think about aiding Ukraine among your circle among your friends and people you know?
Well, yes, some believe it's a good thing. Some believe it needs to happen because, you know, Russia's the clear aggressor. There are some that believe, unfortunately, that, you know, it's not our war. It's, you know, why should their money be spent on it? But, you know, there are a good amount of people, more people than not, that believe that, you know, Ukraine needs help and UK should be, you know, spending money to help Ukraine. And you know, people like me as well, if you can come over and fight, do it, you know, because Ukraine needs all the help it can get.
When the full-scale invasion started, lots of people compared Ukraine to Great Britain, especially after the pictures of Kharkiv or Kiev underground started appearing on the internet. So people compared that with London station during London underground during Second World War being bombed. They were spread to the internet. And our president also, by some, like, I've seen that on the news, I will add the picture. He was called a modern Churchill as well. So what should you think about these two comparisons? The pictures from the underground and comparing Zelensky to Churchill.
Churchill was a wartime leader against the Nazis, and, you know, Zelensky's a wartime leader against the Russians. And the only difference is between now and then is the weapons have got bigger and scarier, you know, since World War II. So yeah, I can appreciate that, and yeah.
So, I mean, you believe it's fair enough?
Yeah, it's fair enough, you know.
Some of pretty famous influencers from Western countries, bloggers and politicians, they say that help to Ukraine shall not be provided, that sanctions do not work against Russia. Some not so smart bloggers, and still I believe they are getting paid by Russia, it's my opinion. They even say that this war is not real, that they don't see any footage from this war as well. And so you have participated in combat operations, you have met Russians, you've seen them, you've seen what they're capable of, you've seen the consequences of this war. So let's imagine that you can speak to those people who say all that stuff, that this war is not real, that we shouldn't support Ukraine. Let's imagine you can speak to them. What would you say to them? How would you, no, I mean, like, not the bad words, but I mean, How would you prove that they're wrong? What would you say to them? How would you try to explain to them that the shit is real? And what would you say to them? Why they should support Ukraine?
I mean, I'd wake up, wake up and, you know, stop putting stupid content out there just for likes. It's terrible what's going on here. And the way that you say this war is fake, it sort of pisses on all the people that's given their lives out here, the innocent families that gets bombed every single week, children that have been killed, grandparents that have been killed by Russian bombs, and you're trying to say it's fake. You know, wake up. It's disgusting. I mean, you're only doing it for likes anyway. You know, I mean, there's nothing else I'd really like to say to those sorts of people.
Yeah, and here we smoothly come to the blog that I dedicated that to Russian propaganda. Mm-hmm. So the main question here is all foreign volunteers who came to Ukraine, they called the mercenaries. Russia called them mercenaries. So and they say that you came here only for money. So please just explain why this is not true.
So, for one, mercenaries get paid a lot more than what we get paid on the front line here. Two, many of us who came to fight this war can earn more money back home doing what we was doing before than fighting in this war. So that's not a very good mercenary, is it? I mean, it's just propaganda. You know, what do they call it? Nazi mercenaries. I mean, it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish just to spin propaganda, you know.
And the third one I want to add, the most important one, you've signed official contract with Armed Forces of Ukraine, yeah, which makes you an official serviceman.
Yes, I'm a soldier.
You're not a mercenary.
No, exactly.
You have an official contract.
Yeah, official contract. You have rank, you know, it's mercenaries don't have any of that. You know, they don't have a contract within the armed forces. They have a contract with themselves and the government and things. No, but we signed contracts.
Everything is official.
Yeah, within the Ukrainian army.
So Russian propaganda is trying to decrease the help to Ukraine that provided by all means. They ask to weaken the sanctions, and they're saying that that sanctions make no sense and it harms not the Russia but the countries who apply those. And I understand that you have not lived at home for a while, but it's still based on your communication with your family and friends. Do the sanctions against Russia have a negative impact on the UK?
Slight, but not as much as the Russians make out that it's having. I mean, the cost of gas has gone up, but at the end of the day, people get on with it. You know, they put a jumper on rather than, you know, paying that little bit more money. You know, if it's not absolutely freezing, people just wear warm clothes. It's not the end of the world. They've not caused big problems with, you know, gas prices and things like that. But it does cost a bit more. Like some things in the shops cost more. But that's not just because of Russia. That's, you know, the Brexit and things like that. But no, they haven't had a big impact. You know, it's.
So how people in Britain feel about that?
You know, they just.
I believe there are different opinions.
Yeah, I can't really speak for everyone. I mean,
from what you know, from what you heard.
I mean, people are just annoyed that things cost so much. You know, people work hard for their money and then have to spend a lot on the bills and then the gas and then you know. But it's once you grow accustomed to it, it's normal. You know, it's just everyday life, and I don't think people are as half as bothered as what Russia makes out that it is. You know, it's not causing major issues there.
Russian propaganda says that they fight not against Ukraine but against whole NATO in here. And that's how they explain to their people why so-called special operations take so long. Of course, it's not the serious one, but is it true that NATO fights there? Have you seen any NATO troops around you?
No. I mean, if NATO was here, Russia would have lost this war a long time ago. And I'm not taking anything away from Ukrainian forces here. I think it just goes to show that Ukraine as one nation has held back the Russian might all this time. And done very well, you know, for Russia to not be able to get a clear foothold apart from where they already was in Donbass. Ukrainian forces have done very, very well. The Ukrainian strength and Ukrainian people, you know, I do believe it's something to pride yourselves in, because it's amazing how well you've held on. But if NATO was here,
yeah, how the thing would go if NATO involved.
With the combined forces of NATO plus Ukraine, Russia would have, you know, that. Bye-bye.
До побачення.
Добре бачення. Пока-пока.
I made a few posts with people for people so they can ask you some questions. I made some in my Instagram and I made it in Ukraine subreddit. До речі, дуже раджу підписуйтесь. Класний subreddit. Читаю кожен день. So here are some questions from my subscribers and Reddit users. So it's not they're not related to any topics, just that what people wanted to ask from you. So what did impress you the most in this war? It could be both positive and negative.
So positive, I'd say just the will of the Ukrainian people, the strength, you know, the way that their country's getting attacked and people are just walking around, you know, doing their normal things. I think a lot of countries, people will just stay home, you know. But here, people just do what they got to do, you know. There's shaheeds coming in and people walk around and...
you can say that.
And the people are actually pokoi, yeah, pokoi you bled. And you know, it makes me feel happy that I've been here and been a part of it, because you don't find that strength everywhere. You know, it takes a certain type of people to be strong like that, and Ukraine is very strong, you know, and that's impressed me the most. Negative, just the amount of death that's on the front line. You know, it's both sides, unfortunately. Yeah, I know a good Russian's a dead Russian, but you know, it still takes a toll. You know, but they invaded, so they get what's coming to them. You know, but it's sad that one man made the decision for all of this to happen. You know, that would be the negative.
How badly civilians suffer in this war, from what you've seen?
It's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, there's a lot of suffering going on here, even though, you know, the will and the strength, they just get on with it. But still, like, I remember riding the metro and, you know, when no one's got no internet and they've not got nothing to take their mind off it, you can see the sadness on people's faces. You know, it's how many people have been lost to this war, how many people have relatives or friends, loved ones that have been killed on the front line, that have been killed walking down the street going to the shop because a Shaheed came in or a missile. It's taking its toll with the people, you know, and it's sad. But that's the way that Russia chooses to fight their wars. They target the general populations rather than the actual forces, because that's how they like to fight wars, very terribly. But yeah, it's a kind of a sad question, because yeah, I'm tough for fight, but still it's not nice what goes on here. And sometimes when you're in your uniform going off on you know, you're getting onto the train to go back to Donbass, and you just see people's emotions in their eyes, and it makes you really upset, you know. You know, you keep it in, but they're the things that upset you the most, like the train stations, watching people get on the trains, and the families that are crying because their brothers and sons are going off to fight. Half of them probably won't come back because, you know, it's war, it's shit.
Do you have any family members who took part in wars or maybe served in the military?
Yeah, I do have a couple of family members. Again, I don't want to get into too many details about their units and what they did, but my great-great-grandfather was in the Special Air Service, you know, in World War II in Korea. I'll take great pride in that.
Is that what made you to join the army?
I mean, yeah. I always felt that I had a role that was sort of down the soldier route.
Without like any details, but in generally, just for the viewers, tell where you've been fighting, like which cities may be part of Ukraine.
So yeah, we basically work in the Donetsk region, Avdiivka, Donetsk. Not quite much in the city, but you know, the outside, the surrounding areas, Pisky, many villages that I can't pronounce. But yeah, that's the sort of general area that we work. Yeah. Sorry.
And you can't share the details.
No, not
No,
too.
I understand. I understand
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
It's okay. What has changed in you during your service in Ukraine? What views on the world were like destroyed? Maybe you just rethought something.
Whatever little hope I had in humanity maybe has been sort of diminished a lot more. You know, seeing the suffering, seeing the death, you know, the battlefields lit up with bodies, the sadness in people's eyes when, you know, they haven't got nothing else to take their mind off of it. Yeah, it's my faith in humanity as overall. You know, to allow this to go on for so long here, it's really disturbing. You know.
Did you have a chance to speak to Russian or with Russian? Sorry.
I did. Not for very long. I didn't really want to entertain them. The look of shock on their face when they see a British man talking to them with a rifle pointing at them.
And they're like, NATO's here. It was true.
Yeah, probably because they're so stupid. But no, yeah, I've spoke to a Russian.
What do you think about Russia in general?
I mean, some Russians were smart and clever, and they left before the invasion because they knew what was coming. They wasn't stupid. They could see through the lies, and they left. And those Russians, fair play to you. You know, you didn't want nothing to do with the war, so you ran away. Fair play. But the ones that are still there, letting their sons and their brothers and their fathers and their uncles get dragged off to this war, why not do something about it there, you know? You're weak, you're pathetic, you believe everything that Putin tells you because you're stupid. You've got no sense of your own. I mean, many countries, people stand up to their own governments, you know, they riot, they say no when they don't like something. Whereas in Russia, they just blindly follow Putin's example, and in my eyes, that makes you stupid, you know? That's all I've got to say on them.
That one came from my Instagram, and honestly, I hesitated asking this, but would you ever go to Russia as a tourist?
No.
Is there any significant disadvantages that you might notice in Ukrainian armed forces? From your opinion.
Communications is a big problem. You know, we've been making do with the way it is at the minute, but if communications were worked on as a whole for the army, and got better with communicating with, you know, from the tanks to the combined arms, so tanks, infantry, aircraft.
And different units.
Yeah, different units, because, you know, sometimes in an area of operations, there'll be 2 or 3 units from different brigades, you know, and they don't have communication with each other. They don't have, you know, and it has to go through this way to this way to this way just to get the message to, you understand what I'm saying? It's, so if they worked on communication, that could be something that would be a big improvement in the fight against Russia.
Since you came here, did you rethink your country's colonial past?
It's a good question. I mean, Britain, the UK has a very dark history, and I'll be the first one to admit it. You know, over hundreds of years, you know, the Crusades, the Empire. Yeah, I mean, I've never agreed with my past as it was, but definitely being out here, you could see how the British Empire was, you know, kind of like the way Russia did. They just turned up somewhere and put their flag down, and it was like, oh, this is ours now. And anyone who rose up, they'd be destroyed. And it's sad, but I'm glad that's our history and not our present, you know, because...
Yeah, let's admit that it's 21st century, and United Kingdom realizes that's not going to work like this now.
No, of course not. I mean...
But Russia still thinks
they can bully their way into everything, and they haven't learned from previous mistakes, like many other countries have. You know, they've moved on. It is the 21st century, and, you know, countries that was like that before are trying to be more civil and you know, diplomatic, but whereas Russia, they just don't care, you know.
How many injuries do you have?
I've been injured 3 times. The first time was shrapnel in my back, only a small piece. That took me out of action for about 2 weeks. The next time I was injured was when I received the shrapnel to the face here. I got shrapnel here, shrapnel in my arms. This time, shrapnel here, shrapnel in my arms, 5 pieces in my eyes, 1 piece went into my chin and into my throat. And then the last time was a crash, and it broke my collarbone. I snapped the socket out of the joint. I had to have a surgery on that. Yeah, so I've got a few scars to take home, should we say?
So yeah, that's why I want to ask you, if in advance you knew that you're going to get this injured, would you change your mind?
Poco jest. No. I was pretty sure that coming out here, I'm dead anyway. You know, that's how you get over that's how you harness the fear. You never get over the fear. There's no getting over the fear. You know, only the stupidest men would say that they're not scared running into a trench. But it's how you deal with the fear. If, you know, you're already dead. What's the point? You know, you just crack on until you eventually die. But no, if I knew that these injuries were going to happen, these specific injuries, I still would have came 100%. You know.
What do you like the most about Ukraine?
I mean, just the people, the Ukrainian people. Most of the people here are nice. They're polite. They're kind. You can have a conversation with them in the street. You know, if you can understand each other. And when there's a Ukrainian that speaks English, they want to speak English with you. You know, they want to understand why you're here. And
That's how we practice.
Yeah, well, there is that. But you know, it's when I think about Great Britain and just walking down the street, there's certain chips on shoulders. You know, there's attitude. There's people that, you know,
Everyone's grumpy.
Yeah, not everyone, and not everywhere. But you know, there are places where you feel like you wouldn't talk to a stranger on the street, whereas here you feel like you can. You know, that's the best way to explain that. I mean, my uncle, he was in Turkey, and he came across a Ukrainian who'd escaped the war, gone there, and she was selling honey, like Ukrainian honey, very tasty. And my uncle's gone, oh, my nephew, he's out there, he's fighting for Ukraine, he's in this unit, and she gave him some free honey, you know, and he brought it back from Turkey. And when I eventually got to go home after I was injured, I tried it, put it on some toast. Oh, baby, yes, atazibis.
Nice.
Said dobre.
Would you like to stay in Ukraine after the war?
I mean, I've got children, so it would be difficult. But I mean, this country, I mean, I've got a piece of me that forever is going to be in Ukraine. You know, you fight for a land, and it's kind of how it happens. You know, part of you will always be here, but it's not impossible, and it is a possibility for me to remain in Ukraine. But maybe when my children are a bit more older.
What would you like to say to Ukrainians?
You should be proud of yourself for how much you've held on and the strength that you've got. Just keep hanging on, and life will definitely get better. You will win this war. Russia will be kicked out of your country. Just stay strong. I mean,
thank you for your time. I appreciate. I really like that. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.